Hello, my name is Emma, and I'm here to preview the 240 study guide that will help you get in the classroom. If you're ready to see the real thing now, click this link right here, or check out a practice test below in the description. In this video, I'm going to dive into the TExES History 7 through 12 exam. And this video is going to cover three things: what content will be covered on the test and how to study for it, the most likely concepts or themes that you'll see on the exam, and we're going to look at a few practice questions. Are you ready to make this exam history? Well, then we'd better get started. History 7 through 12 is 100 questions long, broken into 4 sections called domains. Each domain covers multiple educator standards for this field and contains multiple competencies you'll need to know. In this video, we'll briefly discuss something from each domain. Then, like the dessert at the end of a 4-course meal, we'll end with a series of practice questions. Yum! Let's start with the first ingredient in History 7 through 12. Domain 1, World History. This domain covers 7 competencies, spanning ancient world history to economics, science, and technology in world history. Now that is a lot to chew on. Let's start with an important concept to know here: water. But why? For one, let's consider early civilizations and the first American colonies. They're all near rivers to allow for farming. 2. Proximity to oceans was important for trade and travel, especially for European colonies. Water was the easiest, most efficient form of transportation. Plus, you can get goods in and out of the city. 3. Humans need fresh water to drink, of course. Another thing water plays into is human migration. There are 4 main reasons humans move: food and water, protection, freedom, and better socioeconomic situations. Now, speaking of moving, let's move on to the next course in our historical meal, Domain 2, U.S. History. You'll need to understand significant historical events and developments in the United States, from colonization to technological and economic advantages. This domain also covers 7 competencies. There are tons of important moments here to know. For today, we'll use the Korean and Vietnam Wars as an example, an appetizer, if you will. While the Soviet Union and the United States never engaged directly in combat, hence it being called the Cold War, their conflict spilled over into several other countries where fighting did take place. Most notable of these were the Korean War and the long-lasting Vietnam War. In both wars, the U.S. engaged on behalf of a non-communist regime in order to try to stop communist leaders Kim Il-sung of Korea and Ho Chi Minh of Vietnam. In both cases, the U.S. did not succeed. In Korea, the war ended in a stalemate. In Vietnam, under enormous pressure from home, the United States finally pulled out of the war, allowing the North Vietnamese to easily overcome the South Vietnamese army and unite the countries. And that's the end of this section. Nice work! Now remember, that was just a taste of what's in this section. If you want the full meal, 240 has tons of study materials just for you. Okay, congratulations. We've made it to the halfway point in our overview. Now let's move on to the next course, Domain 3, TExES History. This is a slightly smaller domain covering 3 competencies. They surround significant historical developments and events in Texas. Let's sample some of the many topics you'll need to be familiar with, starting with the Great Depression. Texas was not immune to the Great Depression of the 1920s and 30s. In the late 1930s, the state experienced a major drought that devastated the southern plains. What became known as the Dust Bowl greatly affected Texas's panhandle, as winds eroded the parched land, making farming impossible and causing hardships in rural and urban areas. Another topic to sample is World War II. Texans responded to the call for troops in great numbers, eventually sending a greater percentage of armed forces than any other state, with over 700,000 men and women in uniform. Military posts and industrial plants sprang up all around the state. The war changed the face of Texas forever, from a largely isolated and rural state to one with many large urban areas. In fact, Texas's population grew 33%. Many Texas industries were quickly pulled out of the Great Depression due to wartime production of beef, petroleum products, medical supplies, weapons, and equipment being sent to troops overseas. Hey, good news. We finished yet another course of this historical meal. Let's move into our last domain, Domain 4, Foundations, Skills, Research, and Instruction. This area focuses on the essential abilities and terminology teachers need to effectively teach history in Texas. We've got 4 competencies in this section, and one of those essential concepts is cause and effect. When studying human history, it's important to frame all events in terms of their cause and effect. Similarly, events are always shaped by the overall chronology of when they occur. For example, World War I led to World War II. Following World War I, due to European debt, the United States became the leading industrial power and creditor for other countries. The rise of aggressive nationalists like Italy's Benito Mussolini, Spain's Francisco Franco, and Germany's Adolf Hitler was possible because they could blame economic problems arising from World War I on scapegoats. To hold off another war, the League of Nations tried to negotiate with these nations, but the failed appeasement policy only emboldened the aggressors. On September 1, 1939, Adolf Hitler invaded Poland, effectively starting World War II. Now, that was a lot to swallow. Something to note, the same cause and effect framework can and should be applied to other history topics. And that's it. We've covered our 4 domains. Next up is the cherry on top of the video, our practice questions. These will mirror the sort of questions that you'll see on the TExES History 7 through 12. And we're starting with Domain 1, World History. Which of the following was the primary cause of prehistoric human migration? If you remember way back to the beginning of the video, you know there's only one correct answer, A. Okay, next up is Domain 2, US History. What was the main reason that the United States fought in the Korean War? Let's consider these answers. 2 are simply incorrect, A and D. So that leaves answers B and C, and though both are correct, the main reason is B. Great work, we're halfway there. Let's hop into Domain 3, TExES History. All of the following were effects felt by Texas as a result of World War II, except, remember what we talked about when discussing World War II and Texas? Great. Now, we know the right answer must be A. As Texas's population grew, urban city centers grew, and the state was no longer mostly rural. Which of the following series of events most clearly demonstrates the concept of cause and effect in history? This is an interesting question. Here's my advice. Think about these answers in terms of chronology. With that in mind, the correct answer is A. Okay, great work, everyone. With that, our overview of TExES History 7 through 12 exam comes to an end. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for a nap. Congratulations on finishing the video. If you found it helpful, give it a like. There's still plenty more to learn, though. Did you know that our study guide has hundreds of practice questions? If you really want to make sure you're prepared for the TExES History 7 through 12 exam, take the next step and subscribe to the 240 study guide. It has hours of videos so you can watch or listen while doing chores. It is test aligned so you know precisely what you need to study. And it has hundreds of practice questions so you can be sure you're ready. And it has the money back guarantee. So click the link below right now to get started.